There we go. Have you been abused? Have you been in a toxic relationship? Have you been in a relationship with a narcissist? A lot of times, people that are in a relationship with a narcissist think one thing after they've been with it, and that is, I can't heal. I can't get better. There's no way to make this work. There's no way to make this happen. A lot of times, we see people that struggle with narcissistic abuse that don't think that healing is even possible after the fact. Like they're not sure, how does this even happen? How am I able to actually work through the pain, work through the vulnerability, work through the issue, work through the heartache of being with a toxic person, and then having them walk away thinking that everything is perfect, everything's fine, and I'm still left struggling. I'm still left not healing. So many people are stuck in this loop thinking, I can't heal, thinking, I don't know how to even be able to step forward into this mindset of being able to see a different possibility, a different reality. I had a client that I've been working with for a little bit over a year. And while I don't know, it was about like 6 months ago, we went on this trip. We went on this trip to a giant mountain. It was like up in the Himalayas. And it was the idea that as we started to climb the mountain, I asked her one thing, and as she started to climb the mountain, she couldn't see the top. Like the mountain's so big and so huge, she couldn't see the top from where she was starting. The hard part is right now, wherever you are in your healing journey, you're at this place where you're starting. You're like, okay, I'm starting to learn about this. I'm starting to understand more about narcissism. I'm starting, but I don't see the end in sight. It is that concept, like without vision, people perish. Without having an end goal in mind, people start to struggle with this of like, should I keep going? Is it even possible? Does the life that I deserve actually on the other side of this mountain that I'm trying to get over? The hard thing is like when you're climbing a mountain, when you're starting to build and to grow and develop yourself, at the very base of the mountain, you typically can't see the top. You can't see the version of reality that you want to actually be true. You think it's there, you hope it's there, you're wondering and praying and thinking it might actually show up, but like I don't see it. I don't actually know if it is possible for me to heal. Are you at a place today where you kind of think this of like, I'm not sure if I'm able to heal. I'm not sure if healing is even possible. Maybe you've been with a narcissistic person, you've been to the place where you're like, he's moved on, I'm still stuck, I don't know how to actually move past this, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling day in, day out to get past the rumination, to break the trauma on, to start moving forward. The thing you have to understand is like right now, at the beginning of your healing journey, you're not going to be able to see the end version of who you actually could be. Many of you right now are probably saying, like, I wish I could go back to the old version of me. I wish I could go back to the place where I was happy, where I was confident, where we had a good relationship, where it wasn't really that bad. There was a different version, there was a different side of him that I was seeing. And you're hoping and wishing that you could go back to that. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. That version of you, if you went back to that same version of you, it would go through the same cycle over and over because you don't have the education now, you don't have understanding now of what you've actually been through, of where you've actually been. And so I want you to think like you're starting on at the base of the mountain, on a journey, on a step in the right direction, knowing that there is a possibility for healing. There's more than a possibility, but you have to understand first and foremost that there's a possibility, so you keep making the step. So you keep making the step forward. Because until you actually move forward, you don't create any momentum. Movement creates momentum. This is how we like coach and how we train. Like if you want to build confidence, then you're going to start repeating yourself. You're going to start doing the same thing over and over until you see like, oh, confidence in this area. And we're going to repeat it. We're going to do it over again. Movement starts to build your momentum in the direction you want to go. So you're like, I want to heal. Well, let's start making the right moves. Let's start making the right steps forward. Just like going up a mountain, you're not going to see the peak. You're not going to see the top, like the destination, the version of you that you want to be. You're not going to see that at the bottom of the mountain. But you're going to take the first step and the next step. And the hard thing working with survivors is a lot of times you're at the place where you're like, I don't think it exists. And there's someone right above, like the next cliff up, that's like looking down and being like, hey, just take it, just come on up. The reality that you see is actually here. You see this every single day of people that are breaking the trauma and getting free, moving forward in their healing journey, breaking free from the toxicity that controls them. But so often you feel stuck, like it's too hard. It's too difficult. We talk about this, about fast food healing, the idea of like, I want my healing here, fast, quick, fast, fresh, easy, and I want it now. And it's like people that go to the gym and they're like, well, I want muscles now. Because my wife and I, we started working out beginning of this year, and we did like the first workout, and I was like, okay, where are they? I was like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like you have to put in the reps, you have to put in the work day by day by day to actually increase who you actually are, to increase the healing that you actually want. But the problem is, a lot of times people run away from it. Illustration of buffaloes and cows. Okay, some of you might have heard this, some of you might not. Out west, whenever storms would come over the mountains and they start to go across the plains, you see buffalo and cows respond in two various different ways. The cows would get scared of the thunderstorms and they would run away from them. They'd be like, nope, don't want to deal with that. So they'd run away from it. Buffalo, on the other hand, run towards the thing that they're actually scared of. So note to self, if you scare a buffalo, be careful. They're going to run after you. Okay. So when the storm would come, the buffalo would actually run towards the thing that scares them. What this actually looks like in reality is you have a storm that's coming across here, and you have the cow. The cow's like, nope, don't want that storm. So the cow's running away. The storm's chasing the cow. It actually elongates how long the cow is actually in the storm, in the thing that they're trying to get away from. Then you have the buffalo. The storm's coming across. The buffalo is like, I'm scared of that. I'm going to run straight into it. The buffalo runs straight into it. What it actually does is it minimizes the time that they're actually in the storm. This is the same thing that we talk about in healing. When you start to run away from your healing, when you start to run away from the truth of the situation, you elongate the time that you're actually in limbo, where you're not actually able to heal. People are like, let me go ahead and run away from it. Let me not have to embrace the pain. Let me not have to be vulnerable with myself and with others, with my therapist, with working through the coach to try to get to the place of healing, because I don't want to do that. It's painful. And so people run away from it. And when they run away from it, they actually stay in the pain longer. Like you're at the place where like, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to fix this now. You have to be able to understand. You have to actually step into the pain, be able to process it, work through it, and be able to come out on the other side. But so often people are running away from it. They're running away from the truth. This is one of the things we're going to be touching base in our online workshop that I'm going to be hosting here June 24th from 12 to 4 p.m. It's going to be a 4-hour event Eastern time. It's all online. We're not doing it in person on this time. It's just all online. You can go to escapetoxicity.com/freedom. We'll put a link on rawmotivations.com as well, but escapetoxicity.com/freedom, a 4-hour event that we're going to be putting on. The whole concept here is actually walking you through the process of how to be free and how to heal. Ultimately, how we're working for you to heal is to help you understand the triggers that are controlling you. Not the toxic person, not the narcissist, not anybody else in your life, the triggers that are controlling you. There's thoughts, there's actions, there's stories that you're telling yourself that are controlling you in the moment, that are keeping you locked in. As you start to realize this, you start to understand, if you start to change the story that you believe, if you start to change the current reality that you're living and that you're believing is to be able to grow and to be able to change. If you start changing that, you're able to move forward. But you have to be able to acknowledge the truth of the situation. So we walk people through a formula. The formula is going to be built into the workshop. It's also going to be built into the pre-training that we're giving you before the workshop. But it's walking you through this aspect of like, let's identify the triggers. Then let's go into the emotions. How are you actually responding, reacting in the moment? What are the emotions? What are you feeling at that time? Then we describe it of like feeling statements. How are you actually feeling longer than just the emotion? Like, what does this play out in your life? And then ultimately, what is the story that you're telling yourself? A lot of times people start telling themselves a certain story that has been a lie from the narcissist, that has been a lie of limiting beliefs, that has been a lie of stuff that you've put in your own mind over a period of time. And you've got to the place you believe that alternate version of reality versus the truth. And this is where a narcissist keeps you constantly in the trauma bond. And so in order to break out of the trauma, to break out of the rumination, we have to actually work through the story that you believe, the things that you're telling yourself over and over and over again. And as we do that, we start to break you free. This is the process that we do inside the Thriver community, where people are actually doing this process called stacking every single day to get to the place where mentally and emotionally they are in a spot where they're in control of their lives and they have clarity versus getting sucked back into the fog, sucked back into the toxic relationship, sucked back into the fog, the fear, the obligation, the guilt that keeps you stuck for such a long period of time. And then ultimately leads to the place where you feel right now that you can't get. That is too tough, that is too hard, that's going to take too much work, that's going to be too horrible. It takes work. One of the things I said in one of the emails that came out recently was, I can't save you. I can't fix you. It's not my job. But I'm here to help lead and support you So we try to do with all the different videos, the courses, the challenges, the communities, all the different things to try to help people understand that you actually have the biggest influence on your life right now. You're able to change and transform who you are, but you have to believe it. It's so hard to believe it when you're stuck in the fog, when you're stuck in the thought process of this person still has me stuck over and over and over again. The rumination, the thought process that keeps you stuck in the trauma bond, keeps you stuck going back to this toxic person over and over and over again. So you have to decide, how are you actually going to invest in your healing? How are you actually going to work on changing the story that you believe? Like, until you change the story that you believe, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to develop. Nothing is going to help you actually move forward. Like, you have to be able to understand, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You're going to be in the same exact spot right here. I was talking to somebody just last week that I talked to a year prior, and they were like, I'm not farther ahead than what I thought it would be. Why? Because they hadn't done the work. This is the piece that people run away from, the piece that people shy away from because the work seems too hard. It is hard. But the other aspect is, if you don't do the work, where are you going to end up? If you don't do the work to start into your healing, your growth, your change, where are you going to end up? Like, where are you going to end up? This doesn't actually change. Some of you are caught in a cycle of going back and forth to a toxic person over and over and over again. Like, you're stuck in a cycle that has you go back to not just the same one, but a different narcissist time and time and time again. You're like, I don't really see a pattern in my life. I don't even know if I can do this because I feel broken. Like, do you relate to that? Is that something that you actually see in your life? Because I talk to people and they get to the place thinking maybe this person will change, maybe they'll get better. They get locked in the trauma bond and they keep going through the same cycle over and over and over again. Or they just get with another person again and again and again. So you need to be able to understand, until you change the story that you believe, there's no hope to be able to break the trauma bond. There's no hope to be able to break rumination. That's what you have to start off with. Faith. Murray says, yes, I'm lying to myself. I know it's horrible, but now I tell myself it wasn't that bad. 100%. You're right there with a lot of other people that think it wasn't that bad. Maybe it would have been better if I would have done this. Maybe it would have been better if I would have done this. He wouldn't have cheated on me. He wouldn't have done this. I see this so often. That you just sell yourself short thinking it wasn't that bad when it actually was. They keep falling for everything. Yeah. I've been busy divorcing a narcissist, and parallel parenting is so difficult. 100%. It's very difficult. Parallel parenting and keeping those values is 100% what you need to do. You need to keep continuing moving forward in that direction. Using the method, brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Like, those are really helpful in that. Like, you have to be able to continue moving forward, saying like, hey, this is who I am. I'm being consistent in who I am. A big reason why you keep going back to the narcissist, why a narcissist is coming into your life over and over and over again, is you don't actually know who you are. You haven't actually gotten to a place where you're going to value, to love yourself to the place where this person doesn't control how you look, how you feel, how you act. You have to be able to understand that. I only wanted money, didn't even want to know me. 100%. Narcissists care about image and money. Yes, always end up apologizing for his anger. That's when the narcissist knows that they've got you, and you're starting to apologize for the things that the other person did to you. And it was all a lie, but I can't seem to accept that yet. It's hard. Denver, that's one of the hardest things is the radical acceptance of the truth of the situation. Sometimes that's why we go through and we teach people the process, the formula of how to break free from the trauma bond and to deal with the facts, the truth of the situation. If you don't deal with the truth of the situation, nothing will actually get you free. Right to the money thing, that's on something. Yeah, money is a huge component when we talk about narcissism. Image and money, two biggest things, especially when you're talking about custody, especially when you're talking about divorce. I've just been through the cycle yet again with my narcissist, tried to call him out on something. Nems, you have to be able to think after a while, what's the point of even trying to call him out? Like, you keep trying to call someone out who doesn't live in this current reality that you live in. But you see it, but they don't see it. You see it, but he's unwilling to acknowledge it. That's where you get to the place where you need to understand, like, wait a second, this person doesn't care. How do you stay friendly after realizing all they put you through? You don't. There's no reason you need to stay friends with a narcissist, and there's not really an opportunity to stay friends with a narcissist because they'll still use it to manipulate and abuse you because they still think they control and they own you. He deleted his social media accounts because I've not given him the attention he wants. Awesome. Money is ridiculous. Like this guy was money obsessed, left me in debt, and even stole from me. Because 100%, you'll see this a lot of times where narcissists will use and abuse you to get what they want out of you, and then leave. I had a client that I was working with, trying to help her in her healing process. She told me about the story of she was with this guy for a period of time. Finally, to call him up was like, "You've used all our money. We don't have anything. I'm gonna have to file for bankruptcy." By the time she got home, he had packed up his stuff and was leaving because she was no longer useful to him. I've done the work. I still completed level 3 diploma in psychotherapy. I find myself thinking of him to remind myself of who he really was. Recently became a grandmother. No, he would have ruined it for me. I'm loving life, facing my fears. If I can do it, anyone can. Nikki, absolutely. 100%. Because you have to be able to pause whenever you think of him like you're doing that and remind yourself of the truth of the situation. I mean, some of us can have hopes when we see your example that a narcissist can go to treatment. Understand that. And the reason why I understand that and I say this is you have to be able to understand, does the narcissist, are they honest, vulnerable, and show consistent change? If they're not, then you need to leave the narcissist. Because at that point, you don't have a relationship. You're just in an abusive situation. You're justifying in your head thinking that it's going to get better. When I didn't show honesty, vulnerability, and consistent change, my wife left. A lot of you are in a relationship with a narcissist and you're enabling them because you're still with them. You're not going to like that, but I don't really care if you like it or not because it's the truth. The narcissist is getting what they want from you, so why should he actually leave? Why should he actually change? You're like, but I hope he changes and let me spend more time. Let me love him a little bit more. Is that working? No, it's not working because he's still getting what he wants from you. If you don't have a relationship, a partnership with someone out there that is honest, vulnerable, and shows consistent change, you do not have a relationship and you need to walk away. At that point, you're lying to yourself. Most people are trying to get away from these people. I'm trying to get mine back. It's so awful. That's because you're believing a lie. You're believing that that person actually cares about you. You're believing a version of reality that's actually not true. Mine for sure is not all what you said. Yeah, if you don't see that honesty, vulnerability, and consistent change, then you need to walk away from the narcissist. Why is my narcissistic boyfriend reaching out to an ex? Extra supply. Always want to have someone in the wings. Narcissists are such a different breed. I'll never understand y'all, but I just have to move on. So Jennifer, there's a piece that you're not going to understand the illogical behavior of a narcissist. I mean, we can break it down. We can walk you through how this happens and how this like goes on. But at the end of the day, it's not going to make sense because it's not how you operate. Why is my narcissistic boyfriend reaching out? Does he miss her more than me? No, he doesn't care about you and he doesn't care about her. Okay, all that matters is I need constant communication, constant attention. That's what the narcissist is looking for. You don't actually matter. Doesn't mean that you don't matter. It means you don't matter to him. So as a result, he's going to line up multiple supplies because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in his life. It just matters that there's someone in his life. Okay. I have no choice but to stop contact with his kids. Drugs have taken hold, and he's letting them. Yeah, he's letting them down 100%. He always said I was too kind and trustworthy. Yeah, he's going to use that against you. You want the lie to support you? Yeah. I'm struggling at a whole nother level as he caused my adult daughter to cut me out of her life. I sense Purdue didn't smear campaign being used against me. My adult daughter knows he is something. And that's all I got. I'm sorry. But you didn't need that kind of support. I'm not sure what that's going back to. I'm sorry. If they do everything that you asked before, just show you that they change. Stop alcohol, women, start healthy food, self growth, stop. That is hoovering, or they really change. The thing is that you had to ask. And that's the big thing. When you give a narcissist a list, they'll check off the list and then go back to abusing the same way because you told them how to manipulate you. You're like, hey, do all these things for me. They do all those things for you, and then they revert back to how they are. And then you're like, but you're acting like this. He's like, I did everything you told me to. So what's the problem? When you give a narcissist a list, they'll check off the list that it's not going to change them. It's just going to be behavior modification. The honesty has helped me. Stop me thinking about my ex like a normal person. Not you ignoring my question. I don't even see your question. My narcissist is also my daughter's father, is communicating nicely only for her, okay. As far as, like, you're not communicating with her, but you're communicating through him to her? What does that mean? Do they ever feel love? They feel more of the high of a relationship, a lot of the high of the manipulation than they actually do love and connection. And you also have to define love. Narcissist love is completely different than what your love is gonna be. For me, love is all about control. Like, I'm controlling you, like, I control what you do, who you're around, all those things because it comes back to me, okay? Well, did he ever love me? He said I was his best friend. Okay, so how is he showing you that he's his best fr that you're his best friend now? Well, he's not? Okay, then he didn't love you. Like, this is the part that people don't like, and that's just the truth. And part of you guys come and you listen to this because you want to hear some truth, but then oftentimes people run away because the truth feels too hard to be able to handle. That's the piece that a narcissist and a survivor both struggle with, is dealing with the truth. The narcissist doesn't want to admit the truth of who he is, that the survivor doesn't want to admit of the truth of the pain that they've been through. But when you run away from the pain, just like we talked about earlier, the illustration of the buffaloes running through the storm and the cows running away from the storm, when you run away from the pain, you stay in the pain longer. People are like, I want my healing fast. Stay in the pain the longest. I want to get fixed fast. Stay in the pain the longest. Think of it this way. You go when you accidentally break your leg. When you break your leg, you're like, I don't want to go to the doctor. It'll be fine. I'll just keep walking on it because I want to be up and walking fast. It's fine. I'll just figure it out. I'll work fast. And then a year later, you're like, why do I still have a limp? Well, why do you think? Some of you gonna think I'm coming across harsh, or I'm coming across hard, but someone out there needs to be able to hear it this way because it's not getting through any other way. It hasn't connected with you so far, and you keep wondering why you haven't healed or why you're not farther in your journey when you keep running away from the one thing you need to address. When you address the one thing that's actually holding you back, or the one thing that's just going and pulling you back into a toxic relationship. Maybe not with him, maybe with another narcissist, maybe with another toxic person. Maybe you look back and you've seen a repetitive behavior of being with a narcissist over and over and over again. What's going on with that? You're like, well, I just have bad luck. Narcissists aren't attracted to a bunch of people with bad luck. Narcissists are attracted to people that are moldable, people that are easily swayed, people that no longer know who they are, who don't have any self esteem. So that when a narcissist gives you a breadcrumb, you think it's a whole loaf. You think it's the greatest thing ever. One of the things that leaves you stuck in a toxic relationship is the fact that you don't know who you are and you don't know what direction you're going. And as a result, you're left as a wandering generality trying to figure out your healing and just hoping that it gets better without any structure, without any systems to help you actually move forward. The reason why I'm so passionate about this stuff is because we built systems that help people move forward. You can come work with Raw Motivations, you can go work with someone else. I don't care. If you work with me, I care about you and I work with you. You work with someone else, care about you, but I'm not going to work with you. End of the day, it doesn't matter. You need to make a decision for you to say, am I a cow or am I a buffalo? Am I someone who's running away from the pain and I'm unwilling to actually change, develop, and heal? Or am I willing to actually go into the pain and say, hey, if this sucks, it sucks, but I'm still going to get my healing on the other side? Are y'all hearing this so far? Are y'all hearing what I'm trying to say? Like, you have to make a choice for you. There's multiple ways you can do this. There's multiple people you can work with. I'm not saying I'm the only person, okay? You can work with me. You can go to rawmotivations.com. We can schedule one-on-one. We can talk about where you're going to go with that. You can join our webinar that we have coming up. Not a webinar. I keep calling it a webinar. It's a workshop because it's interactive. You can join our workshop that we have coming up June 24th. It's an online workshop, escapetoxicity.com/freedom. You can get it at rawmotivations.com. Like, you can work with all that stuff. More than one work with you, but it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't matter. What matters is you. You have to make the choice for it to be for your growth, for your healing, for your change. And you saying, I don't care how hard it is, because the hard right now is really awful. One thing my wife said on our podcast is she said one time, "You have to choose your heart." I'm asking you today, are you gonna choose your heart? You can either have it hard and stay in the relationship and stay in the shit that you're stuck in and wonder, why am I not getting out? Or you can have your heart and stay in the rumination and wonder, like, I keep obsessing, I keep thinking over him and I can't get out. You can have your heart and be stuck in the trauma bond and be like, I don't know, how am I actually going to get out of this because I'm too stuck on this person. Or you can have your heart and say, hey, I'm going to leave. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to develop myself. I'm going to change my mindset because if I don't, I'm still going to be here in another year. If you guys are hearing this right now, type in heard in the chat because I want you guys to be able to hear that you have to be able to choose your healing. You have to be able to choose this. If you don't, nothing will change. If you don't, you will still be here. Does that make sense? There's healing possible. But just like standing at the base of the mountain and not being able to see the peak of the mountain, you have to be able to understand just because you can't see the peak doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Earlier this year, I was talking to my wife about a certain financial pressure that we had in our lives, and I was like, "I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel." I was like, "I know it exists, but I don't actually see the light at the end of the tunnel." We prayed about it, we talked about it, we started moving forward, God started blessing different ways, but I was like, "I don't see it." But there got to be this place where I had to start stepping, even though I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that this was the path forward, that this was the step moving forward. Some of you know that there is a step that you need to make. Maybe that's reaching out and talking with me one on one. Maybe that's joining our 7-day challenge. Maybe that's joining and applying for our Thriver community. Maybe that's just coming to the workshop. Maybe that's working with someone completely else. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you work with, it matters that you actually pursue your healing. If you find that healing with someone else, go for it. That's awesome. If you don't find it and you need help, come to us. That's awesome. At the end of the day, you have to choose. You have to choose the hard that you're willing to embrace, the hard that will either have you running away from the pain and staying in it, or the hard that will have you embracing it, walking through it, and coming out the other side a brand new version of you, a brand new version that's healed, that's healthy, that's whole, and is able to stand in confidence, knowing that you are a person standing there as a beacon of light to your kids, to your family, to your coworkers, to people that are around you, understanding that you can heal. As a result, they can learn to rise too from the place that they are. Wrap up with a couple questions here before we head out. I got on my little soapbox and then we just kind of rolled with it really quick, right? Do narcissists generally ghost people or do they downplay what the relationship is? Was a lot of times it happens, not necessarily all the time, but a lot of times it happens. I think I'm healing myself, but some days I feel like I did 5 days back. Reach out for help. I'd love to help you with that. Love yourself first, please. 100%. Thank God for my faith in God. You're so right. Thank you. What are some big signs I'm actually with a narcissist? I'd have you look at some of my videos on YouTube talking about narcissistic traits. Look at the DSM-5 ones. Can you realize after 17 years of marriage that all the ups and downs were narcissistic manipulation? 100%. I've got the longest client that was with a narcissist that recently just broke free. It was 36 years. 36 years she was with a narcissistic sociopath, and right now she's free. It's awesome. Get like updates every once in a while, like how she's doing is really cool. Would it hurt the kids if I tell them what happened to me? Uh, we've talked before. There's a piece that like you need to be honest with your kids, especially if they ask. How do we peacefully leave a narcissist? Pack your bags when they're not around. You block, you ghost, you walk out the door. There's not a peaceful aspect typically between you and a narcissist. But you open the escape plan. Yes, I have worked people through an escape plan, several people with that. Do we ever heal? Claire, that's up to you. It's not up to me. I can show you a long list of people that have healed, that have broken free, that are glowing up after being with a toxic narcissistic person. But ultimately, it comes down to you. It's a lot of people that join some of our challenges, some of our programs that don't finish, not for lack of trying, because we reach out and we're like, "Hey, where are you?" Some people just don't finish. We try to give all the supports we go through, even with analytics, and try to figure out, like, where people are dropping off on the challenges to figure out, do we need to tweak something? Do we need to change something? And we do that a lot. But at the end of the day, like, there's people that they get into it and they're just like, "It's too hard for me to actually heal," because you end up having to work on yourself. We help you understand the narcissist, but at the end of the day, the healing journey that we take you down, the healing journey talks about the narcissist, the growth mindset, that's what we're talking about. We're actually helping you build the habits that you don't have, to build the confidence that you lack, to reestablish the self-esteem that you used to have, but self-esteem that we're going to build way stronger, way bigger than what it's ever been before. Why do narcissists turn physically violent after so long? Typically, it's a best way to describe it is a screwed up version of respect. You're not respecting me, so I have to up my game until I actually get to a place where you respect me, and then it becomes a dominant play. One of your videos on YouTube helped me to understand being happy and loving myself is what would hurt and repel the narcissistic people, and I don't back now. That's awesome. That's awesome. Why narcissists treat their supplies differently? They treat them the same with different masks. Okay, so it's the same shitty cake. It's just different icing on the top. So, he left after getting drunk and does not come, but to see his daughter ghosted her too. I would block and I would make sure you work on everything that you can to stay as separate as you can. Could it be good fathers and husbands just narcissistic in certain situations? They can't be good fathers and abusive husbands. Those two don't go together. People think they do. I don't. I was more physically abused than his girlfriend. Now it's definitely more mentally and emotionally abused. Yeah, it goes back and forth. Do narcissists tend to live more in the past than in the future? They typically live more in the present than anything. They don't want to dwell on the past. They don't want to bring it back up. How do you stop this person from hurting others? You can't control them. Unless you have legal evidence and you get this person thrown in jail, you can't control them. You need to walk away and you need to focus on you. How to handle co-parenting? We're going to touch on that in a different live. Wrapping this one up. There's a whole can of worms. I've got some YouTube videos on that. If you don't already watch Judge Anthony or Anthony Bompiani, he's got some great stuff talking about co-parenting and talking about, like, dealing with not child support and custody cases. Can you give more advice about physical abuse from narcissists? I'm not sure exactly what advice. If you're in a physically abusive situation, like, you need to do whatever is in your power to get out. Narcissists or not, it doesn't matter. Asked me 5 minutes ago, and it's been and gone, and they don't want to discuss it. 100%. 100%. Judge Anthony or Anthony Bompiani. I think he's Judge Anthony on TikTok. I think everywhere else it's Anthony Bompiani. Bompiani. Okay. If you guys are just tuning in, this would probably be a good one, at least to watch, like, the second half of this live. Kind of got a little fired up. But the big thing you need to know is, like, the change has to happen inside of you. You have to be willing for the change to actually be there. You have to be willing for the change to actually be so much. Like, there's times that I talk to clients and I've talked to different people. I've done, like, the initial one-on-one, and I realized through the one-on-one that they actually don't want the healing. Say they do. Say they want the healing. They say they want to be better, but they actually don't want the healing. Because it means we have to uncover too much shit. We have to get too spicy, to unearth a lot of stuff that they don't want to unearth. Go back sometimes to childhood to actually deal with the trauma that they went through. I've said it sometimes very bluntly to people is, I don't think you hurt enough. I don't think you've got to the place where the pain is bad enough for you to actually want the change. And until it is, some of you out there won't change at all. You've got an opportunity to change. And you've got a step. You've got a doorway that you can go through. It's up to you. It's up to you to step through the door. To actually move forward into your healing, your growth, and your change. Are you actually willing to do that? Are you actually willing to move forward and invest in you? If you guys want to talk to me one on one, would love to interact with you. You can go to rawmotivations.com on any of the platforms, except for maybe YouTube, because you can't really direct message me. On any of the platforms, you can message me if you have any specific questions. We do have an online workshop that's coming up now on June 24th. We just did a in-person workshop in Florida. It went really well, but I kind of walked away from it because there's a lot of people bummed that they weren't able to attend because we didn't have a virtual option. So I'm coming up with a virtual option. A lot of people made different comments about it. So I was like, okay, I hear you. So we'll come up with a virtual one. So if you go to escapetoxicity.com/freedom, it's going to be an online freedom workshop. It's going to be interactive. It's not going to be a webinar. It's not going to be like this where I'm just reading comments. So you'll have an opportunity to be able to talk, to share, interact with other survivors. But it's escapetoxicity.com/freedom. And that would be a piece, a step forward. If you work with me, if you work with someone else, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't need you to work with me, put it that way. But if you want that healing, we're in heaven. And today it comes down to your choice of, are you willing to actually choose? You have to understand, I don't need you to work with me. At the end of the day, I don't care if you work with me or if you don't work with me. End of the day, you have to choose your healing regardless of who you work with. Will you choose your healing? Will you continue moving forward? Freedom shouldn't be the only focus. Freedom of the mind, freedom of the things that are actually controlling you. Even come to the workshop, you got like 5 days of pre-work you have to do that goes into like 15 to 30-minute videos that I put together specifically for the workshop that talks about how you actually heal from a trauma bond, the boundaries that you need, the growth mindset. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be in it. Online freedom workshop just sounded cool, so I went with that. Okay. What would you recommend for people that want to work on themselves? One, I'd recommend you come to the workshop. But yeah, starting off journaling is a great way. Journaling, meditation, 100%. Very much so. Awesome. Are you saying I attracted this narcissist? Mary, I'm saying if you're at the place that you don't know who you are and you don't have healthy boundaries in your life, then you're an open book to narcissist. You might even have energy doors that are open mentally, emotionally, sexually. And the real thing, whether you believe in them or not. Is there prayer in the workshop? No, there's no prayer in the workshop. It's not a come to Jesus altar call. Mm. Do the London time of the workshop. Do I know the time? 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern, June 24th. Okay. Now, I know the workshop I just meant some people don't want to take that step, but I did just in case. Yeah. Do I feel no contact is best? Yes. I feel no contact is best if you actually want full healing. You can get full healing when you're still in contact. I just can't understand they leave their kids like they don't exist to move on to another supply. Because to the narcissist, the kids don't even matter and don't even exist. That's it. Kids are a liability, inconvenience. This is why the narcissist leaves and doesn't even care. My boyfriend talks so much about his past and the hurt his exes caused. He missed them or what? No, he's playing the victim just to get you to have sympathy for him. That's it. Could be a narcissist hides a new supply. A lot of times we see that too. Thank you all so much for being around. This live will be on YouTube and also be on Instagram because it'll get posted later. That way you guys can actually watch it if you missed any part of this. There's a lot of fire in it, so I'd love to have you watch it and give me any advice, any response to it. We do have this workshop coming up. You can go to escapetoxicity.com/freedom. It's an online freedom workshop. It's not a webinar. I was like, if I do a webinar, it's going to be the same exact thing as this, me just speaking and people being in the comments. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to actually do a workshop where we interact. We interact with other survivors, with other coaches, with other people. So we're super excited. But you can sign up at escapetoxicity.com/freedom. Or if you get confused by any of that, shoot me a message. If you want to work with me one-on-one, either ask some questions, get some closure, or apply for our Thriver community, you can go to rawmotivations.com, click on the one-on-ones there. We'd love to interact with you. We'd love to help you out as best I can. And today, like I said, it doesn't matter if you work with me, if you work with someone else, if you need the healing, you need to take a step forward. And that step forward has to be you investing in you. Y'all have a blessed and a wonderful Sunday and a great rest of your week. And we'll catch you guys next time